any part of your body if it's for pleasure, not smearing yourself, not wearing leather shoes. But in another pasuk it says you should afflict yourself on the 9th day of the month. So what is it? Why does it say the 9th day if it's a 10th day? So this that says the 9th day teaches us that you have to add from the mundane onto the holy. That you have to add onto the holiness of Yom Kippur, that you start Yom Kippur a little earlier. That's why it says you afflict yourself on the 9th day. Yom Kippur is on the 10th, because it's teaching us they have to start Yom Kippur a little earlier. So all the laws of Yom Kippur begin earlier. And also there's another pasuk that teaches us that we end later, a few minutes later, a few minutes earlier. And that also applies to Shabbos and Yom Tov. This idea that we start earlier and we finish a little later. If a person is in danger, this life and death situation, someone is very sick, of course they're allowed to eat and drink on Yom Kippur. However, preferably they should eat less than the amount that would make them liable of the punishment of kares. So, on one hand, even if you eat less than the amount, you eat a small amount, small cookie, a small anything, just a drop, a little eating, a little drinking is prohibited by the Torah. However, you're not liable of the punishment of kares. Kares is the punishment for someone who eats on Yom Kippur in the Torah. So in the times of the Beis Hamikdash, kares means that they would die at the age of 50. So they were punished by the hands of Hashem. That's what kares is. Now, it doesn't happen anymore. It's explained in Tanya why. We're not going into it. So if a person eats on Yom Kippur and he only eats a small amount, or he drinks a small amount of liquid, so he violates, according to the Torah, that he's eating and drinking on Yom Kippur, but he doesn't get the punishment of kares, doesn't go into that category of kares, even though the punishment doesn't happen these days, but nevertheless, the fact is he's not under that category of kares until he eats or drinks a specific amount. Which tells us that if a person eats or drinks less than that amount, it's not as severe as he would eat the full amount. So let's say the full amount for eating is about approximately the size of an egg. So let's say it's about, if it's mezainis or a mitzi, so let's say 1.5 ounces, 1.75 ounces, somewhere around there. It doesn't matter exactly. But in drinking, it's a cheekful, which is let's say about 2 ounces. It's the majority of the revius. There's a certain amount. So now if you drink or eat less than that, you're not in the category of kares. But that also tells you that the transgression is not as severe, because if you eat the amount that the Torah says you're going to receive this punishment, even though these punishments don't apply these days, that also means that if you eat that amount, you are transgressing in a much more serious way. So if you eat less than that, the transgression is not as serious. So what am I getting to? Less serious, more serious, you can't do it. That's what we're getting to. If someone is sick, life and death, and then he's allowed to eat and drink on Yom Kippur, what we say is, well, if he's able to eat less than that amount, so he doesn't go into the category of kares, so this transgression is not as severe. Even though it's not called a transgression because he's allowed, but still, we're allowing him because he needs to. So if he doesn't have to eat large amounts of food, large amounts of liquid at once, what we tell him is eat small amounts. So you're not violating in such a severe way. Again, I'm saying, so you're not violating, not violating, but because he's allowed. But the point is, we only allow what's necessary. So that's why if someone calls the rabbi for Yom Kippur and in a situation and the Rav realizes, yeah, they're allowed to eat and drink, and the doctor said, and they verified everything they have to eat. It's life and death. They need to eat and drink. So the Rav says, well, try to eat in small amounts if possible. Not always they're able to. Many times they just have to eat the full amount, drink the full amount. But if possible, they tell them to eat in small amounts. So they'll tell them like every 9 minutes you could have, let's say, an ounce of cake, an ounce of bread. If it's fruits and vegetables, it's even less. It'll be let's say 2/3 of an ounce, approximately. You have that every 9 minutes, so it spreads it out, so you're not eating a full amount that falls under the category of curse, because you only fall under the category of curse if in other words, the punishment of curse, which means it's a very much more severe transgression, is only if you eat it within a certain amount of time. Because obviously eating small amounts, eventually it adds up to that amount. So what am I saying? You eat less than that amount. Eventually it's going to add up. But if you spread it out, it's not called eating the full amount because it's spread out. It doesn't count like ate it together. It's like, when you eat, if you don't eat within a certain amount, it doesn't give that level of satiation. If you spread it out, it doesn't digest the same way, obviously, and it doesn't give you that full, you ate and it did something because it's spread out. Is this understood? Okay. So, Havdalah, we did not discuss yet, I see here. Oh, right. We did discuss Havdalah last time. We did discuss Havdalah last time, but I have here that I did not go into the reasoning. So I'm going to quickly run over Havdalah. Havdalah on Motzi and Kippur is not like a Shabbos Havdalah. It's not like a Yom Tov Havdalah. Yom Tov, we do not say a bracha on Psamim, not on fire. On Shabbos, when we do Havdalah, we say a bracha on Psamim and fire. Motzi and Kippur, we don't use Psamim, but we use fire. But the fire we use is, what kind of fire do we use? Anyone? Huh? What kind of fire do we use? It's called Ner Sheshavas. You have a candle Sheshavas. Sheshavas, that rested, which is from the Ner Chaim or Ner Neshama. You use a candle that was burning the whole Yom Kippur. You can only say a bracha on a candle that was burning the entire Yom Kippur. We explained in the last class because we specifically want to show how Yom Kippur is holier than any other Yom Tov, that it's similar to Shabbos, that you can't make use of fire the entire Yom Kippur. So it's like the fire was created just now after Yom Kippur. So we say a bracha on fire, Motzei Yom Kippur. Just like Motzei Shabbos, fire was created. Motzei Yom Kippur, it's as if fire was created. So we say a bracha, braided by the Eish, and specifically on a candle that was burning the entire Yom Kippur. The way we do it is, so we use a candle that was burning the whole Yom Kippur, and what we do is we light a candle from it. We explained last time remembers how to light it? The back, very good, the back of a match. Don't use a match because the match is a chance that it will extinguish it because it gives what's it called, a spurt, a jump, and then it could just put out the candle inside. It has to be a candle that burnt on Kippur, so if you want it to stay lit, you're going to stick a match inside, so put the opposite side. Now, why not say a bracha just on that fire itself? Why light from it and then say a bracha on both together? Why not just say a bracha on the fire that's burning itself? Anyone knows why? We didn't explain this why, yeah? So yeah, but the bracha was said. First, we not necessarily say a bracha. It's a 24-hour candle. We don't say bracha before Yom Kippur. It's a 24-hour candle.
You said 2 bits.
Because I need one at a time. It's a 24-hour candle that we did not say a bracha on it before Yom Kippur. But even if we did, the bracha that we're saying now is a different bracha. We're saying a bracha Beirei Ma'od Eish. Right? So the question is, why do we light from it? It says you should light a candle from it and say a bracha on the new lit candle together with the candle that's already burning. You want to say?
Going 2 weeks. So
Okay, because Abdullah have to have 2 weeks. Preferably, Abdullah should have 2 weeks. It should be that's a reason. That's not the reason. That's an additional reason. Because Abdullah, you say a bracha on fire. That's not just one word. Preferably, that's preferably it should be a big fire together. But that's not the only reason.
bring it into here.
So the reason is because the fire, when we say a bracha on fire, let's say Shabbos and let's say Yom Kippur, has to be a fire that was lit to give light. So if you're lighting it for this purpose now, it's to give light. The fire that was burning the whole Yom Kippur wasn't lit to give light. It was lit to represent, like you have the Ner Chaim to represent the luchos that were brought down on Yom Kippur, and then the neshama, the person. It wasn't necessarily lit to give light. It has to be a candle that was lit to give light. So therefore, we light from it because now we're lighting it for that purpose. We want the light. It's specifically for this purpose to give us the light for this purpose. That's why we don't want to say a bracha on the fire itself. You want to say a bracha on what you're lighting from it. So you're lighting from it, now you're lighting a candle to give light. Get it? But we say a bracha on both together. Preferably it should be both together. You could just use the one that you're lighting, the new one that you're lighting from it. Preferably it should be on both together because there's still an advantage to the candle that was burning on Yom Kippur, right? Because that was the actual candle that was burning on Yom Kippur. So that has an advantage too. The disadvantage wasn't lit to give light. So the ideal thing is to say a bracha on both together. If you can't say both together, preferably you want to do the bracha on the one that you lit now, because now this one was lit to give light, and it came from a fire that was resting on Kippur, so it's fine. So it's no issue. But there's an advantage also using the candle that was burning the whole Yom Kippur. But if you have to choose between the candle that was burning on Yom Kippur and what you're lighting from it, you want to make a bracha on the one that you're lighting now, because this one is to give light. The one that's burning the whole Yom Kippur was not lit to give you light. Like you need light to daven to read, that's not why it was lit. Whereas this one is officially lit now for this purpose, to say a bracha, that is considered to give light, even though you can say it's not to give light, but that's what it's for. You're lighting it now for that purpose. You got a question?
Yeah, so back in the day, electricity, the candles at the light of it, for the purpose of light, would they be that way?
If it was lit to give light, yes. But generally it wasn't. Because usually those like the Ner Chaim, we light a candle before Yom Kippur, just called the Ner Chaim, or 11 different. It represents the Torah of the luchos that came down on Yom Kippur. So it wasn't necessarily to give light. Even though people use it also for light, but it wasn't specifically for light. So even though they also used it, you're saying that, but it was also for light, but it wasn't the main purpose. So still, even then, it was still best. So could be back then, if they had no choice, it could get by it. In other words, it was like, okay, fine. But it still wasn't ideal. It's still better to light from it because it wasn't meant specifically to be lit to give light. Very good point. Okay. Are we up to here? Okay, now we go to. Okay, so before So one of the things Yom Kippur, I think we mentioned this already. We're going to go into more detail, and that is before Yom Kippur, you got to take care of things between you and your friend, right? With Hashem, that's Yom Kippur. But if you have issues with your friend, you stole, you cheated them, you hurt their feelings, you embarrassed them, or whatever it is, you got to deal with it before Yom Kippur. You can come to Yom Kippur and do the best davening, but you didn't set things straight with your friend. That's a problem. You have to take care of it, and that's very important. And one of those things is not to hurt their feelings, not to say things to them that are hurtful. So the classical situation, I mean, one of the psukim in the Torah is when it says that you're not supposed to, for example, hurt the feelings of a convert, a ger, and tell them, you know, what do you think you are anyways? You know what you used to be. You come from blah, 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 right? So that's a prohibition in the Torah. So there's an interesting story in the Gemara that happened after Yom Kippur. That is, in the times of the second Beis Hamikdash, the Kohanim, the Kohanim, the high priests, the servant of the Beis Hamikdash, weren't necessarily from the highest caliber, saying it mildly. A lot of them had bought their way in to become the Kohen, but they were the children of Aaron Kohen, they had the lineage, Kohen, right? And on the other hand, there was the leaders, the scholars, the leaders of the generation, those who taught the generation, so the leaders. There was at that time, there was Shmaya and Naphtali. Shmaya and Naphtali were the greatest leaders. They were the leaders of the generation. They happened to be from converts. Torah is everyone's. Anyone who becomes a Jew is equal when it comes to studying Torah, and you have the greatest scholars who came from the lineage doesn't matter, but they became great people, but their lineage was from converts. So here comes the story. Yom Kippur is over, and everyone is leaving the Beis Hamikdash, and everyone is Yom Tov and so excited. And Shmai and Naphtali, and the Kohen Gadol is also leaving the Beis Hamikdash, not in respect. So it's great. You follow them, you walk with them. So the Kohen Gadol is leaving the Beis Hamikdash. So all the Jewish people are following them in respect, to follow them, but then they notice Shmai and Naphtali coming out. So instead of following the Kohen Gadol, they switched and they started following Shmai and Naphtali, because that's the halacha, because they're great Torah scholars, so they get priority in terms of giving them honor over the Kohen Gadol, because the Kohen Gadol wasn't such a great Torah scholar, and they were. So priority is given to them, and that's what the halacha is, and that's what they did. They followed Shmai and Naphtali. Now the Kohen Gadol felt a little bit. He felt like it wasn't okay. Now we have to make it clear as I'm saying it. It wasn't done in a way where the Kohen Gadol was embarrassed or something. It was done in a very dignified way. Just it was correcting, but the Kohen Gadol, his pride overcame him, and he didn't like it. Didn't like the fact that they gave the respect, and then they went to follow Shmai and Naphtali. And so they were sort of walking in a together, but they're mainly following Shmai and Naphtali, but they're sort of like in close proximity to each other to see each other. Then it came to a point where there was like a fork in the road where the Kohen Gadol was going to go this way, Shmai and Naphtali was going to go the other way. So Shmai and Naphtali greeted the Kohen Gadol and said goodbye to the Kohen Gadol, greeted him in a nice way. And the Kohen Gadol responded to Shmai and Naphtali in something very derogatory. And the Kohen Gadol said to Shmai and Naphtali, let the sons of the nations go in peace, alluding to the fact that, who do you think you are? You come from converts, and I'm the Kohen Gadol. I come from Aaron Kohen. So that's what the Kohen Gadol said to Shmai and Naphtali. Let the sons of the nations go in peace. So Shmai and Naphtali responded, not in a derogatory way, but in an informative way, in a teaching them a lesson, and they said to the Kohen Gadol, yes, let the sons of the nations go in peace, who act like Aaron the Kohen. You know, Aaron the Kohen was someone who loved peace and ran after peace and helped people and had tremendous service Israel. And let not the one who comes from Aaron the Kohen but doesn't act like Aaron the Kohen go in peace. In other words, the message was, so you come from Aaron the Kohen, beautiful, wow. But how are you behaving? How are you acting? Are you acting like him? Or are you acting like someone else? So it's not always about who you come from, what your lineage is, but how are you behaving? So this story happened right after Yom Kippur. And Yom Kippur, when Hashem is forgiving us, and this is what the Kohen Gadol had in him, this behavior, because in the times of the second Beis Hamikdash, unfortunately, there was a lot of corruption, and the Kohen Gadol who served the Beis Hamikdash wasn't necessarily, from the not right person to be there, but there was a lot of control from the government, and there was money involved. They paid money, and they wanted, even though they weren't at that level to be a Kohen Gadol, but they paid money to get into that position. So, finishing up with Yom Kippur, I want to share a story that's connected to Yom Kippur. And that is, so first, a story with Rabbi Osdoba. And the story with Rabbi Osdoba is Rabbi Osdoba. Why is it called Rabbi Osdoba? Label. Saras, what's Saras? Anyone knows why Rabbi Saras? Saras?
Couples, right?
Sarah. Saras. In those days, the last names would go by the father or the country. I mean, the city where they lived. They were called the name, and then the name. Like there's a chassid called Rab Chaim Tashkent. There's a chassid who passed away many years ago. He lived in Prague. It's called Rab Chaim Tashkent. Tashkent is the name of a city. It's called Rab Chaim Tashkent because he came from Tashkent. Those are the last names went by, where they came from. So it went by their father. The father. So in this case, there was a tzaddik Rab Leib. He went by his mother's name. Rab Leib Saras, like Sarah. Saras. He was Sarah's child. Rab Leib Saras. That was his name. Why did he go by his mother? Because his mother was a very special person. And the story with her is that it once happened that was to make it short, because there's the other story that I mainly want to bring out. This is connected to the next story, which I mainly want to bring, but to understand the next story, understand a little about her. Basically, she helped her parents run a little, whatever, selling some food to make some money outside of her house. And people would come by, going would come. And once the son of the parrots came by, and he saw her, and he decided that he wants to marry her. You have to remember the parrots, the landowner. Those days, the parrots, the landowner, had full control of everything. They owned you, they owned everything, and you're like, you do whatever, he had full power to do whatever he wanted to do. So he's the son of the parrots, his father, he decided he wants to marry her. And he hinted to her a few times. Of course, religious girl, she's not going to marry this guy, this son of the parrots. But it came a point in time where the son of the parrots, was getting frustrated, and he went to his father, and the father, what do you mean? Of course, you want to marry if you have a right to marry. He wrote a whole letter to the father of the girl that's, my son has to marry your daughter. Can you imagine in those days how it was, how crazy it was? And he had this letter. Now he's going to travel to this village where the girl is. He's going to show the letter to the father. And now if the father refuses, parts could do whatever he wants to. Parts could kill or whatever. What's going to happen now? So Hashem helped. He went with a bunch of his friends, traveling together. And they would stop, every time there was an inn, they would stop and have a big party over there and celebrate. And they stopped in an inn that was close by, right before this village. They stopped in another village that was close by. And they stopped in an inn. Happened to be a Jewish inn. There was a Jewish person working there. His name was Rabbi Yosef, an older person. He was a widower. His wife passed away many years ago. He was an older person, not very old, but maybe in his 50s, whatever. He worked there. And he tried to, whenever he had time to learn, he would learn, but he'd take care of the customers. But, sometimes, even when you're focusing and you're concentrating and you try to block things out, sometimes you pick up, someone says a word like that you jump, and he hears, while he's trying to learn, he hears them saying that the friends are telling him, oh, and because they're all drinking, having the time, he hears the friends telling him, seeing him after he married the Jewish girl, sorry, you're going to have to stop behaving. You're not going to be able to act like this. You married a Jewish girl, you have to behave. His ears pricked up. What are they saying? And he realized what's happened. Not only that, the son of the parrot stood up. He had the letter from his father. He started reading the letter that his father wrote, what his father wrote to the father of the girl, that she has to marry him. He realized the danger involved. You can't imagine these days, you get still at your hearing, but you don't get the danger. Because the parrots can do whatever. These days, what do you mean? Free kind to do what you want. It wasn't like that. What's going to happen? There was a great danger involved. Which anyway it's going to happen is going to be bad. Anyway, she's going to freeze. The parrots could kill the father. It's what's going to happen now? You realize the danger. He quickly, in the middle of the night, jumped on a horse and quickly ran to the other village and notified and woke up, in the middle of the night, he woke up the family. They're like, what's going on? What happened over here? So something very urgent. And he tells the father the whole story. Father looks at him and says, what do we do? He says, well, I think the only way that there's hope, there's a good chance is if she gets married right away. If she gets married right away, usually, hopefully the parts and parts of the son aren't so crazy that they're gonna, even though nothing is beyond them, but she's married, so there's a good chance that they'll, okay, he lost. She'll marry her with whom? And there was little villages, no people to marry her to. It wasn't like well, with the right one, the wrong one. There was no one. There was no one her age. So he said, there's no choice. Maybe we should, maybe there's another way to deal with it. Maybe we could. He sort of started to hint about that maybe he should marry her. And he said, well, he was sort of like embarrassed to even say such a thing, he's going to marry her. He's like 30 years older than her. He says, well, just for the situation, I'm ready to help out. And then right after the danger is over, I'll divorce her so she could marry someone who she needs to marry, but at least it could save her life. So the father's like, oh, that sounds like a good idea. And sure enough, the next day they set up a chuppah. They got they can imagine they got the caterers, everything, the photographers, everything so fast, and the flowers. Anyways, they set up a chuppah the next day, and Yosef with her, was like white beard, 30, 40 years older than her, staying under the chuppah. And right in the middle of the chuppah, at least that's how the story goes, but you never know what's accurate, what's not, but that's how it's written in one of the stories. And he shows up, the son of the parrots, this Vilga Chai comes with all his friends, they come right into town, and they come and they're looking, and the son of the parrots is looking. and he's fuming. His collar, right? But what's happening over? He's like so angry. Like everyone is nervous. What's gonna happen? What's he gonna do? Hashem helped again. His friends look at him and say, "Whoa, you're so lucky. You're so lucky you didn't marry this crazy girl. Look at this crazy girl. She's standing here marrying someone who could be her grandfather. All right, lucky you. Lucky you they didn't marry this Meshuggah girl." And he was like, I guess half convinced or half he was like, what is he going to say? You know, his friends are like telling him, he was inside, he was definitely fuming. But yeah, okay, that's it. It was over. He drove off. It was over. Danger is over. They're gone. He really, he decided that they realized that he's not interested. He left because they picked up from they noticed what was going on and how they were talking to each other. And now the danger is over. Now Rabbi Yosef tells his new father-in-law, he tells his wife Sarah, let's go now into town. It's a small village. There's no bezdin over there. If you have to write a get to divorce, it means Rabbanim will know how to write a get. I always have a question of story. Why do they have to make a real kedushin that you need a get, whatever? But this expression, you don't ask questions on the story. That's where the story goes. Could be they wanted it to be meals like this. It makes sense. But anyway, anyways, they went into town. So he said to her that I'm ready to go into town to the doctor. So she turned to him and he said to her, I'm ready to take you to town to divorce and you can marry whatever you need to marry. You're stuck with me. So she said to him, I'm ready to go into town with you. Yeah, but not for a divorce. So we should live together. She says to him, you're ready to give up your life for me. You're endangering your life, right? He endangered his life because the son of the parents could have got very angry and tell his father, and anything could have happened. So he basically endangered his life to save her from him. So she says, you endangered your life for me, I'm indebted to you. It means you're my Bashert. In other words, the connection, the idea, here you see a very strong idea of what marriage is. Marriage is connecting to each other. She felt that he was so caring about her, he was ready to give up his life for her. That means he connected to her in such a deep way. She felt that this is her Bashert, this is the one, and being that Hashkacha Pratis, that she married him, she felt that this was the right one, just because of the way it happened. And next year, they gave birth to a child called Leib, and this child became this great tzaddik, Rab Leib Saras. Now, there's a story with Rab Leib Saras. I don't know if there's going to be time to say the whole story, but we'll start the story and we'll leave you in suspense until Wednesday. 2 days. If you won't be able to sleep because you know the story, so you take sleeping pills. Okay, so the story goes like this. The story that Leib Saras is as follows. Maybe there'll be time to see. Rabbi Leib Saras was a great tzaddik. He was traveling before Yom Kipur, and he wanted to get to a village where there's going to be a minyan. Those days, all the Yiddish villages were very close to each other. So he's traveling, and it's getting late, and he was going to be in one place, but the traveling didn't go as good as, those days. The weather controlled totally the traveling, and he came to a village. So before Yom Kippur, he couldn't travel anymore, and he had to stay there. And he asked, it was Jewish people, they asked the people, is there a minyan over here? So they told him, they planned to have a minyan, and they had exactly 10 people, but something happened. The last thing before Yom Kippur, 2 Jews were arrested. Not because they did anything wrong, because those days, they found they made up a story about them, the pirate, whatever was the guy, the pirates, whoever was the troublemakers there, and they got the people, 2 Jews in jail, and now we have no minion. So he says, well, with me now it's 9. I said, well, 9 is not a minion. Well, we'll try to find another Jew. Any other Jews? There's no other Jews in there. No Jews. So he said, maybe there's a Jew that converted, like a Jew that converted and became a guy, so, and still a Jew. Maybe there's a Jew that converted. What do you mean a Jew that converted? I mean like someone who shmad and became a guy. You know, you want. What are you talking about? So finally, one person, people say, you know what? The pirates of this town used to be Jewish, and then he converted, became a guy, because the whole story happened many years ago, because the old pirates of this town had one only daughter, and this pirates liked this Jew for some reason, and he convinced him. Then he told him, you know, if you marry my daughter, she's my only daughter. You know, that means after I die, you'll be multi-billionaire because the pirates own the whole land. And this was a great, and he couldn't take this his son. He was a great test, right? He was put to the test to become a multi-billionaire. And he couldn't withstand the test, and he became a guy. And now he left everything, you know, Aveda, Genetis, Aveda. One sin drags the others, even though he did it for money, but now he left everything. He does nothing. He even hates Jews. He can't stand Jews over here. He makes trouble with us. And forget about it. There's no chance in you getting him here to be part of the minion, because he left Yiddishkeit for years. He doesn't want to hear of us. He hates the Jewish people here. He makes trouble for them. Forget it. He said, I'm going to go speak to him. Don't go. You're putting yourself in danger. You're going to come there as a big dog. It's ridiculous. He says, no, I'm going. No. The people are shivering, trembling. And he took off. He already had his towels on him, his kittel. Takes off his kittel. And he's walking. People are watching. And they're trembling. They know what's going to be. He comes, he walks. You see from the distance, he knocks on the door. Watching. The door opens up. And this parts himself opens up the door. And he's fuming at it. And the Yidden are trembling. What's going to happen? What's the parts going to do? And the tzaddik, the gaze of the tzaddik is very powerful. We know that. The tzaddik looked at him in such a way that slowly he started to melt down a little bit. And he spoke to him. He told him that, you know, tonight is Yom Kipur, and the doors of tshuva is open for every single Jew. And there's a pasuk in the Torah that says that the 10th one will be holy. The pasuk about when you tie animals, that it says the 10th one will be holy. So it's a pasuk that's used many times. It says the 10th one will be holy, and the door is always open for tshuva. And you're the 10th one. Come tonight to the minion. And he actually came. To be continued. We're just waiting for the shofar.